Chapter 1. Whispers of the lost dot. An empty room echoed with countless voices, growing louder when a girl began to cry deeply, her tears heartfelt and copious. Her hair was untidy, and her clothes were disheveled. The room was adorned with various colors, yet a dark shadow loomed between the room and the girl, disturbing the music that had just begun to play. Lag jar gael ki pier ye hasin rat ho na ho, shayed pier iss yanam main mulakat ho na ho. The event that followed was neither acceptable nor anticipated. The girl suddenly stopped moving, looking downward to find her lost smile. She covered it with white silk, then resumed crying. The room, filled with flowers and ribbons, initially appeared celebratory but somehow transformed, burning and turning to ashes. A thunderclap cleared the view, revealing that the celebration was merely an illusion. The girl looked very depressed and scared, unable to speak despite wanting to. Books she rarely read were flipping their pages continuously until they stopped at a funny cartoon character, Naruto Uzumaki, a beloved Japanese manga character. Suddenly, a window slammed shut due to the wind. The iPhone's ringtone rang continuously. Her tears fell onto a peacock feather, pulling her from her dreamlike state into harsh reality. She screamed louder than a lion in the dark, silent place, losing control. She fought against everything around her but ultimately failed. Covering her face with her hands, she sat peacefully for a moment. When she looked up, blood flowed copiously from her nose, like a small cut on a cherry. Her big eyes had dark circles, and her lips were too dry to hold anything. Her neck appeared fragile as if breaking into hundreds of pieces, yet it remained beautiful and heart-touching. Many could fall for her just by looking at her. Though she wasn't smiling, one could imagine how radiant it would be. Even as I write this, I can't capture all her beauty. Her smile alone is beyond compare. She stood up, trying to loosen the heavy chains that caused her tremendous pain. Her legs bore dark brown and red marks from weeks of confinement. Anyone could tell she wasn't eating properly, her body weakened daily, and scratches had become permanent marks on her hands. God will save you, she muttered. With one hand on her left knee, making a strange posture, she looked utterly helpless. A single drop of blood fell from one eye, and she cried out, "Hero! Please come again." A loud noise signaled someone falling to the floor. She started crying even harder, her head bowed. "Hero! Sir, I beg you, this patient's situation is becoming more critical daily. She's losing her mind. You must do something for her, sir. If she experiences that trauma again, she won't wake up, and we will be responsible. Are you listening to me, sir? Please stop crying and do something for her. Do something." The nurse cried, kneeling. "Sister, control yourself. I've done everything for her, medical treatment, consulted experts, even prayed. But nothing is helping. Her health's continuous decline is my career's greatest failure. A savior must appear to save her life," Dr. Mehta said, looking at Ward 143. He wiped his tears and helped Mrs. Kadiwala up. "Stay strong, sister. God will help us soon." "I hope so, sir." "Yes." At 11:27 p.m., a terrifying noise drew everyone to Ward 143. "Sir, she's lost control. We need an oxygen mask and a high-dose injection." Her screams silenced the hospital. Patients looked fearfully at Ward 143. "Hero! I'm coming," she laughed maniacally. "Hero! I told you. Let's go from here." Her imagination weakened, and she lost control again. 10 people struggled to restrain her as she angrily removed her oxygen mask. Her imagination weakened, and she lost control again. 10 people struggled to restrain her as she angrily removed her oxygen mask. "Please stop, for God's sake," Dr. Mehta begged, hands clasped. At 12:04 a.m., she calmed down, closing her eyes. She remembered promising to celebrate his birthday with him. She smiled brighter than ever, took a deep breath, and suddenly the machines flatlined. No. It can't be. You have to open your eyes. Speak to me. You're here, I know it. Stop fooling me. Stop. Dr. Mater pleaded. Dr. Mater, she's gone. It's 12:14 a.m., February 27th. No. No. It's a failure and the shame of my life. As a doctor, I failed to save her. I failed as a human. Dr. Mater cried uncontrollably and collapsed in grief. No, sir. It's not your fault. Things happen as they're meant to. It was her destiny to die with this much suffering. But I've never seen someone endure so much pain. I hope none of us ever face such a death, the nurse said, covering the girl's body with a white cloth, tears streaming down her face as she looked out the window. Chapter 2. The last goodbye. In one of the darkest rooms, she waited for someone. The sound of a piano filled the room, its melodies judging the darkness. Sometimes it was unpleasant to hear, yet at times it touched the heart and soul. Her small watch ticked continuously, the sound growing darker with each passing second. Her blurry face, on the verge of fading, suddenly lit up as she woke and rubbed her eyes. Those sleepy eyes saw the dark room slowly filling with light, her face glowing brightly like a full moon. She turned towards the room where the piano stood, a Bösendorfer, one of the oldest and most luxurious pianos of its time. She looked to the other side of the piano, finding nothing but a wall. She sat on a wooden chair beside a table with loose screws, a finely crafted straight-top table on which she placed her hands. Her legs shook with nervousness. She stood and looked around. There was nothing but the piano and herself, enveloped in mute tunes. Her purple dress, adorned with intricate artwork, complemented her smooth, untied hair. A bangle graced her right hand, lightly faded mehndi adorned her other hand in a simple yet elegant design. The yellow light made these combinations all the more beautiful. Tired of waiting, she shouted loudly and reached for the bulb to break it. Suddenly, a hand stopped her. She froze, looking into his eyes, forgetting to blink as a tear fell from her left eye. The piano tunes grew louder with every second. Hero, why didn't you come? You always promised in your stories, in your talks, in your texts, in your... Shh, how much longer are you going to talk? Both smiled, reminiscing about an old memory. As I told you, I'm not that talkative, he reminded her of his usual quip. Hey, do you still remember that? Shh. He replied. They laughed together, and she started crying on his hand. She couldn't stop herself from sinking to the ground. He held her, asking what was wrong. Please don't cry, you know I can't stand seeing you cry. I can make you laugh with jokes, he smiled, slightly confused. She cried, then suddenly got angry and playfully hit him. You never change, she said, lightening her mood. Can I hold your hand? He asked, politely. You claim you haven't changed, but what about you? You're the same, still asking for permission. I'm totally yours, how many times do I have to tell you? She replied, slightly annoyed. Yeah, but you know I respect. He began, but she interrupted. You respect women, ensuring they don't feel hurt or awkward, whether they're in the mood or not, whether they want to hold your hand or not. I've heard it all before and replied every time that you can, you don't need permission for that. You respect women, ensuring they don't feel hurt or awkward, whether they're in the mood or not, whether they want to hold your hand or not. I've heard it all before and replied every time that you can, you don't need permission for that. The darkness you see is me, and the light is you, awakening and giving me brightness. The pieces of my body are about to melt into you, he said, his eyes growing cold. He moved his head slightly and smiled sadly, on the verge of tears. The piano's melody shifted from dark to romantic. Suddenly, the door opened, and a gust of air blew through. What are you saying? She asked. Nothing, he replied. Aha, you. When will you change? Say something. No, let's talk about something else. I think we only have a few minutes left, he said. Suddenly, the light dimmed, and both began to breathe rapidly. No, Not again, I don't want to lose you.
Please stay, he shouted with every breath.
Hero, please stop this, can you stop this? Aha, Hero, she shouted louder than him. The piano's volume increased with their shouts, mixing together until the light went out.
The broken glass fell in slow motion as they continued shouting for their existence. A warm breath from a male came from a corner of the room.
Hero, wake up, it's time. The blurry scenes became clear visuals. He put his hands on his knees and tried to get up from the floor.
She helped him up. How are you feeling? She asked. Nothing special, he laughed with closed eyes.
Hero, you.
When will you change?
She laughed, recalling their daily talk.
Everything is special, she said.